Rebirth plus divine doctor plus space plus abilities plus metaphysics plus chronological Shuangwen. After crossing thousands of planes, Su Lin was reborn and returned, carrying the unwillingness and resentment of her past life, killing all directions. Live a lifetime of hard work, Su Lin said that my mother eats everything, but she doesn't suffer losses or frustration. Revenge is avenged on the same day, not avenged 10 times on the same day. Su Lin said that as long as my mother is top-notch, the top-notch ones are not my opponents. Su Lin also said that as long as my mother is wicked enough, no one in this world can harm her. Someone wants to be morally kidnapped, Su Lin laughed heartily. My mother is just an immoral person. You guys should kidnap her. What adoptive parents, what biological parents, as long as the mother doesn't recognize them, they are all scumbags, abusive and playful. What kind of idle scumbag, long-tongued woman, just beat it up and it's over. What kind of divine way? I can see through it at a glance. I want to play feng shui and mystical arts in front of me. Oh, you are all grandsons. What kind of difficult and complicated diseases are all for fun in my hands? I used to be a miracle doctor. Chapter 1. Perhaps the hen grew up eating sand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the crowded kitchen, a thin and weak figure happily bustles around, like a hard-working little bee. Not much effort, a tempting aroma came from the kitchen. Su Lin picked up an egg and stuffed it into her mouth, squinting her peach blossom eyes to enjoy it. A satisfied smile appeared on her palm-sized face. It was delicious, really delicious, so she took a few big bites in a row. Seeing that half of the eggs in the pot were missing, I waved my hand and a handful of yellow sand flowed out of my palm and fell into the pot. Su Lin picked up the spatula and quickly flipped it over several times. Make sure the yellow sand and burnt egg blend together, and then put them on the plate with a smile. Very good, it's done and we can have dinner now. She picked up the plate and walked towards the main hall. Alright, 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 alright. Su Lin stood at the dining table in the main room, shouting in a tone that sounded a bit like shouting chicken and dog. Quickly, a few people walked out of the room, ignoring Su Lin standing at the corner of the table. They quickly walked to the table and sat down, their fingers twitching as they smelled the fragrance. Su Lin looked at the few people sitting down, with a strong hatred flashing in her eyes. Yes, it's hatred. Su Lin's hatred towards this family is etched into her bone marrow and fused into her soul. I have traveled 1,000 times without forgetting a single moment. In her past life, she worked as a cow and horse in this family to serve a large family. At a young age, I started doing household chores before the age of 5 due to the saying that my elder sister is like a mother. At the age of 6, I stepped on a stool to cook and cook. At first, she was beaten to pieces because the food she cooked was unpleasant, and scolded her for wasting food. Auntie Osmanthus next door couldn't bear to look at it, so she gave some private guidance before learning how to cook. Originally, her family was not willing to let her study, but the aunt of the neighborhood committee couldn't bear to see her. She came to persuade her several times, and only sent her to study when she was 12 years old. The teacher disliked her unpleasant name and changed her name to Su Lin. She was intelligent in her studies and completed elementary school in just 2 years. Even so, she dropped out of elementary school after finishing it. It wasn't because she didn't get into high school, but because she was replaced by her younger sister Shuangwen after getting into it. Shuangwen didn't like reading since she was young. She studied a few years earlier than her and even got into high school. Shuangwen is still in 4th grade. Not a single subject has scored 20 points. If it weren't for the opportunity to replace her, Shuangwen wouldn't have thought of getting into high school for the rest of her life. After dropping out of school, besides doing household chores, Su Lin also took on the job of making paper boxes and needles to earn money, and had no free time all day long. Su Lin asked herself if her efforts were worthy of this family. If they have some conscience, even if they don't hurt her, they will find a good family to marry her off. Even if it means deducting all the dowry money. But the Xu family didn't have it. In order for her to work and earn more money for the family, they dragged on until she was 28 years old before allowing her to marry. No, it cannot be called marriage. Should it be sold to the old cripple in the deep mountain ditch? That old cripple was a domestic violence man who killed 3 wives. Su Lin was beaten to death less than a year after marrying. After death, Su Lin was unwilling and her soul wandered around the world, drifting back to the Xu family. I just heard from the Xu family that she is not a child of this family, but a true daughter who was stolen and replaced by the Xu family. The true daughter of the Xu family is eating and drinking spicy food under her identity, enjoying all the glory and wealth. The most important thing is that her biological parents are also aware of her existence. Just because one of her legs was broken by Su's father and she became lame, the family gave up the idea of recognizing their biological daughter, treating the wrongly held daughter as a biological child and no longer caring about her life or death. At that moment, Su Lin's heart was filled with hatred, attracting the attention of the cannon fodder counterattack system. The system told her that as long as she completes 1,000 plain tasks, she will have a chance to be reborn. Su Lin, in order to be reborn, travels through different worlds with the system, wearing one cannon fodder after another. She endured all the hardships and tasted the warmth and coldness in order to learn different skills to counterattack. Only then did we complete the counterattack mission and have today's rebirth. At the moment of her rebirth, the system unbound and continued to search for a new host, but it left a space for Su Lin. The space covers an area of 10 acres and is equipped with a spiritual spring, which can be used for farming and breeding to accommodate living people. Inside, there is also a courtyard she built on an ancient plain, as well as a large warehouse decorated with a time stationary formation. The items placed in the warehouse are in a stationary state and will never spoil. In addition, the skills she learned in various aspects also left a portion for her, giving Su Lin the ability to protect herself after her rebirth. Su Lin closed her eyes, suppressed the rolling thoughts, and sat down at the corner of the table. Why do you make so many kanji? Don't you know that there is food shortage these days? Do you want to finish a meal and starve your whole family to death? Tell me, why is your heart so poisonous at such a young age? It's better for the Xu family to raise you than to raise a pig. Pigs are even more valuable than you. Mrs. Xu scolds and shares her meals, which is a daily homework that she must do. No matter how much she cooks, she has to scold her. It's like I can't eat this meal without scolding. Su Lin squinted her peach blossom eyes, her numb little face unchanged, as if she had long been accustomed to this kind of insults. Su's father, mother, and 2 younger siblings of the Xu family showed disdainful looks, and none of them stood up to say a good word for her. Soon old Madame Xu sorted out the kanji. Old Madame Xu's bowl of kanji is the thickest, and Su Lin's kanji is the thinnest. It's as thin as a human being's, and it doesn't even have a grain of rice. Su Lin seemed to have not seen such injustice, staring blankly at the table. Mrs. Xu moved her chopsticks first, and the few people on the table immediately followed. They ate like they were on the battlefield, and the table was covered in remnants of chopsticks. Ah! The old lady covered her mouth, her eyes twitching in pain. I want to spit out my mouth, but I also feel sorry for the egg. I want to swallow it, but it's embarrassing. Feeling conflicted, the table was filled with sounds of ba-ba. Ah, ba-ba-ba, what's going on? How did the eggs fry so badly? Su Fu dropped his chopsticks and continued to curse, feeling like he had eaten a mouthful of sand. Damn you, how many eggshells did you break into? Su's mother spat out the egg in her palm, cursing and pulling it as if trying to find the eggshell. My younger brother Su Kun spat out an egg and raised his hand to give Su Lin a big pussy, but Su Lin tilted his head to avoid it. He slapped the edge of the table, causing Su Kun to hold his hands and scream in pain, feeling his palms about to break. Who made you hide from the loser? Shuangwen angrily cursed. For a moment, curses, reprimands, and strange sounds echoed around. It was so lively, but no one spoke a good word for Shuangwen. Little bitch, tell me what you can do. You can't even stir-fry an egg well. Why is there sand inside this egg? Sue's mother stared at the egg in her palm with wide eyes, and the others were the same. There was sand inside the egg, which sounded so eerie. Soon everyone's attention focused on Shuangwen, and Sue's mother angrily asked, "Little slut, did you say you intentionally mixed sand?" Shuangwen blinked her innocent eyes, definitely not admitting that she was intentional, but explaining in a timid mosquito-like voice. I'm not. Maybe the hen grew up eating sand. Chapter 2. Not shameful enough to spread out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Not shameful enough to spread out. Shuangwen's innocent little gaze left the family speechless. It was the first time they had heard that hens grew up eating sand. I just feel that Shuangwen, this little slut, is fooling them. You must have mixed the sand, you little slut. Are you dissatisfied with having to cook every day and deliberately causing trouble? Mrs. Xu gritted her teeth and swallowed the egg, pointing at Shuangwen and cursing, almost causing Shuangwen to lift the table. I really didn't, you wronged me. If you don't believe me, then I'll eat the remaining eggs. Shuangwen reached out to pick up the few remaining eggs to prove her innocence. When the Xu family saw it, it was okay. The little slut wants to eat eggs, just dream about it. Before Shuangwen's chopsticks touched the eggs, the few remaining eggs on the plate disappeared and all fell into Shuangwen's bowl. He proudly cursed. Pooh, shameless loser. You deserve to eat expensive things like eggs. After scolding him, he proudly lifted his bowl and pulled all the eggs into his mouth, then looked at Shuangwen provocatively, which was really frustrating. Ah, bah. Before Shuangwen could be proud for 3 seconds, he was crushed to the teeth by the sand in the egg and immediately spat out the egg. I vomited several times and felt like I hadn't finished, so I had to rinse myself with water and didn't even bother cursing. Shuangwen raised her eyebrows slightly and wanted to eat eggs. Hee, I let you guys eat shit. I'll make you angry to see this expensive thing not getting you enough to eat. Anyway, don't let me eat, neither of you want to eat. Mrs. Su's face twitched as she looked at the painful egg meat vomited on the ground. She slammed the table with hatred and shouted. Little slut, you must have intentionally waited, you waited. The old lady wanted to throw the bowl at Shuangwen, but she was also distressed by the kanji in the bowl, so she had to scold. Shuangwen's mother, put away the little bitch's kanji, and beat her hard later. If she starves her for a few days, she will dare to do something bad. Alas. Su's mother answered immediately and brought Shuangwen's porridge bowl to Shuangwen. She was very happy. She saved another bowl of kanji. Even if it was thin enough to see the bottom, she would not give it to the little bitch if she could not see a grain of kanji. After being robbed of kanji, Shuangwen was not angry and still sat in the corner with a wooden face. This is a meticulously prepared feast that she needs to watch as the family finishes. Old Lady Xu glared at Shuangwen with hatred. The annoying little slut, soft-skinned, was angry when she saw her. As if to demonstrate, old Madame Xu took a big mouthful of thick rice porridge and chewed it with great force. Click. Ouch. Mrs. Xu covered her mouth again and widened her triangular eyes in fear, feeling a salty smell coming out of her mouth. She pressed her tongue against her front teeth. It was empty, it was actually empty. Her big teeth actually popped out. Su Laotai's expression of being struck by lightning pleased Shuangwen, causing her mouth to slightly curl up, and soon she pressed it down again. Not to disappoint the small stone she deliberately threw into Mrs. Su's mouth. Old Madame Xu opened her mouth and spit out the rice porridge. There was also a big yellow tooth mixed in it. It looked disgusting. Su Lin silently avoided looking at the scene. Teeth, my front teeth, Mrs. Su pointed to the big yellow tooth and cried out in pain, little bitch, you deliberately mixed stones in kanji, didn't you? You must have deliberately, you heartless loser, you. Mrs. Su was so angry that she trembled and pointed at Su Lin, cursing. I'm not, you wronged me, Su Lin explained with innocent peach blossom eyes blinking, I also want to eat this kanji. How can I deliberately mix stones? Su Lin shook her head and denied it, not admitting a single word, and finally added a sentence, did you get scammed when you were buying rice? Mrs. Su was asked, yes, now there is a shortage of food and prices are extremely high. Maybe it's just sand and stones mixed in by the other party. Thinking about the fact that she personally went to the black market to buy this rice, old lady Su became even angrier. But she didn't take responsibility for it. She immediately pointed at Su Lin and continued cursing. Anyway, no matter whose fault it was, cursing Su Lin was right. Su Lin is the punching bag of the Su family, little nanny, old scalper. Watching Mrs. Su scold others, the Su family became accustomed to it, and no one advised her. They even continued to eat without changing their expression. It's just that today's meal is destined to be bad because every bite they eat is mixed with sand and stones, and the same goes for the vegetables. There is nothing to eat. Even the mantu made of noodles can contain crushed stones. A meal was full of chicken flying and dog jumping, accompanied by the curses and curses of Mrs. Su and a few others, causing neighbors to come and watch the excitement. Su Lin stood at the door with her head down and ears drooping, occasionally weakly defending herself, saying that as innocent as possible, so innocent. The neighbors shook their heads as they watched, who didn't know that the leader of the Su family was just a doormat, do the most work, eat the least food, suffer the most painful beating, and receive the most unpleasant scolding. Unfortunately, this is someone who can't stand up, just like a struggling ado. Helping her won't do her well. Gradually, everyone let go of their efforts to help her get ahead and instead started watching the excitement. Upon hearing that the dishes of the Su family were filled with sand, some people approached to investigate without believing in evil. The table of dishes flipped around but couldn't find a single grain of sand. This made everyone shudder again, and Huang Lao Tai couldn't bear to look at it and spoke out to advise. Old Su, I know you don't like this child, but you can't treat her like this. Which one messed with her? You're blind, you didn't see the sand in the food. Mrs. Su felt sorry for her big front teeth and cursed loudly upon hearing Mrs. Huang's persuasion. Not even giving Huang Lao Tai a chance to continue persuading, Huang Lao Tai rolled her eyes in anger. You're the one who's blind, can you see where there's sand? Old Madam Huang stirred the kanji in question that the rice kanji was white and fragrant, and no impurities could be seen. Looking at the vegetables again, they are stir-fried one by one. Where is the sand? Do you have it? I can't tell that either. Let me give it a try. her.Someone, who was eager to take advantage of the situation, approached the table and picked up a chopstick of vegetables to stuff into her mouth as she spoke. The Su family looked at each other with a strange expression, both heartbroken for their food and teeth. Ha! her.Sister.in.law patted her lips. This dish is really delicious when stir-fried. She has never tasted such a delicious dish before. Look, there's sand inside, it's too shabby. Su Mu said, her eyes fixed on her.Saw's mouth, feeling sorry for the chopsticks. Really? I didn't taste it, I'll take another bite. her.Sister.in.law said another chopstick of vegetables stuffed into her mouth, leaving only 2 of the vegetables on the plate. The big guy's eyes twitched as he watched, secretly cursing that Mrs. Who didn't have enough advantage. No one can directly taste someone else's food and only throw it away. It's not embarrassing enough to spread rumors. But is there really sand in the dishes of the Su family? Can her.Saw still eat so fragrant? You said there was sand in kanji, didn't you? her.Sao asked brightly. Old Madame Xu nodded doubtfully. There were indeed sand and stones in the kanji, and her front teeth were still there. Seeing Mrs. Xu's movements, Mrs. Hu's eyes lit up and she said, "Really? Then I'll try it for you." Chapter 3. Holding Back Opinions. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. her.Someone was not too shabby. She picked up Sue's mother's kanji and sent it to her mouth. Then, in everyone's surprised eyes, a bowl of kanji went to most of the bowl. If Sue's mother didn't grab it quickly, she could finish it directly. No, there is no sand. The kanji is really delicious. her.Someone gave her thumbs up. After finishing speaking, he licked his lips and sucked the residue from his lips into his mouth, not wasting a single bit. Su Lin curved her lips. It's not fragrant. She has already boiled rice and oil. What else do the neighbors see here that they don't understand? The Su family is using this as a pretext to prevent Su Lin's child from eating. TSK, a group of unscrupulous and cowardly people who treat their eldest daughter like this will eventually regret it. For a moment, everyone had everything to say, almost unanimously accusing them of being good to their children. Angry Mrs. Su blushed and had a thick neck, waving her hand to drive people away. Get lost, a bunch of blind stuff. Don't dirty my house, get lost, get lost. Mrs. Su is just an old shrew, a particularly unreasonable shrew. As soon as she takes action, her neighbors are quickly coaxed away. Old Lady Su closed the door and glared at Su Lin in anger. Su Lin responded with a sneer, which made Old Lady Su uneasy. It seems that the dead girl has changed a little bit. Before Old Lady Su can attack her, Mother Su drinks a mouthful of kanji with a puzzled face. She immediately felt embarrassed and vomited profusely. Su's mother felt that what she drank was not a mouthful of kanji, but a mouthful of sand. Looking at the sand on the ground, the Su family was stunned. Little slut, you. Mrs. Su pointed at the sand on the ground and started cursing, but before she could curse out loud, a big pussy landed on her face. Su Lin rushed forward, raised her hands, arched left and right, and slapped Mrs. Su's old face fiercely. Damn old lady, I've been wanting to spank her for a long time. I'll make you a demon, I'll make you scold me, I'll make you ruthless. Su Lin exerted her power and turned Mrs. Su into a pig's head before the Su family could react. She scanned the corner of her eye as Su's father rushed towards her, without saying a word, turned around and kicked him out, accurately kicking Su's little mistress. Su's father's eyes protruded in pain, his old face turned into a pig liver color, his body slowly arched and shrunk into a ball, and he let out a scream in his mouth. Those who didn't know thought the Su family was killing pigs. The departing neighbor stood at the door reluctant to leave, whispering gossip and cursing that the Su family was nothing. After hearing the gossip outside, Su Lin immediately changed her strategy. She punched Mrs. Su's vocal cords, making her unable to make a sound. Then, she rode on Mrs. Su and continued to beat her. Mrs. Su, who had been beaten up, reached out for help with her hands. At this moment, Mrs. Su also reacted and didn't care about the sand in her mouth. She quickly rushed over to save the person. She just thought it was beautiful, but to her surprise, she just came to give someone a head. Su Lin didn't slap Su's mother in the face this time, but instead slapped Su's mother upside down, hitting her wherever it hurt. The key is to use skillful force and not leave any marks after playing. Little slut, dare you hit me? Su's mother was stunned and couldn't believe this soft guy dared to resist. Oh, old bitch, it's you who hit. Su Lin punched Su's mother's vocal cords, making her unable to make a sound. Now Su's mother not only cannot curse, but also cannot call for help. Her good children were stunned by Su Lin's brutality and sat at the table watching the play foolishly, without any intention of fighting. You two should hurry up and help your mother, Su's father said, holding back the pain. Oh, Su Kun reacted and waved his fist, cursing and coming forward to beat Su Lin. Shameless loser, are you trying to rebel? See if I don't kill you. A boy who was taught by Su Laotai to speak up, be a little slut, shut up and lose money, that's not even good to learn. Su Lin wanted to beat him countless times in her past life, but she dared not take action because he was the only boy in the Su family. Now, whether he's the only boy in the Su family or not, he's not a good thing anyway. He deserves to be killed. Su Lin punched heavily, leaving Su's mother powerless to resist. She turned around to greet Su Kun and Sun Wan. The first punch made Su Kun lose his voice, the second punch made Sun Wan lose his voice, and then he punched Su Kun and kicked Sun Wan. The sound of punching sandbags in the room was so intense that it made one's blood boil. Miss Su's face was filled with tears as she fought, reaching out to protect her precious grandson. Su's mother struggled to climb forward and wanted to be beaten up for her good son. Su's father didn't care about the pain on his body and rushed over to save his eldest son. Sun Wan. You can't see me, but I haven't been beaten. Seeing someone come knocking on her door again for a fight, Su Lin immediately gave up 2 small goals and ran towards her father to fight. A punch hit Su's father's valve, making him unable to lift his strength. The second punch hit his vocal cords, so if he can't speak, stop talking. The third punch hit his kidney, turning him into a frequent, urgent, and unclean urination in the future. The fourth and fifth punches Su Lin punched 32 fists in one breath, hitting her father and mother with rolled eyes. Blowing her little fist, Su Lin felt that the evil aura in her chest had spread a lot. Look at the sky, it's getting late. On the first day of her rebirth, it made her so tired. A whole family of bad people, they don't know how to care about others at all. Walking up to Sun Wan, Su Lin stood tall and stared at Sun Wan, who was panicked like a deer. She asked arrogantly. In the future, I will sleep in your room and you will sleep there. Su Lin pointed to the corner of the main room. Do you have any objections? Sun Wan. There are opinions. Hold back your opinions and dare to force a word. Su Lin shook her small fist. Beat you. Sun Wan quickly shook her head. There was no objection, she had no objection at all. Su Lin looked around arrogantly, and not a single person in the hall dared to look directly at her. Only then did Su Lin enter Sun Wan's room with satisfaction. Entering the room, locking the door, Su Lin threw herself onto the bed, only to breathe a sigh of relief, and exhaustion surged throughout her body. Su Lin's mind moved and she disappeared into the bed. She entered the space and went to the bathroom in the courtyard, where she immediately placed a tank of hot water. After some thought, Su Lin poured half a bucket of Lingquan water into the bathtub before taking off her clothes and jumping in. Soaking in the water, looking at her slender body and the dense bruises on it, Su Lin felt like she had taken it lightly. This family of jackals and wolves has never had a good thing since childhood. They either beat or scold her every day, which is torture in various ways. Su Lin couldn't figure it out. They all said that having a dog for a long time has feelings. Why is this family's heart so hard? Wiping her face, Su Lin began to calculate how to live her life in the future. Today is February 1st, 1975, which is also her 16th birthday. It will be over 2 years before announcing the resumption of the college entrance examination. Now she only has a primary school diploma, so she needs to find a way to obtain a Chinese diploma from junior high school so that she can take the college entrance examination in the future. I remember on the second day of her birthday in her previous life, the Educated Youth Office came to inform them that there were many children in their family and they met the conditions for going to the countryside. It was best to go to the countryside alone. Chapter 4. Skills left behind by the system. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Received a notice from the Youth Education Office that the Su family is unwilling to let Su Lin go to the countryside, so on the evening of receiving the notification, Su's father broke one of her legs. It is claimed that she deliberately broke her leg to avoid working in the mountains and countryside, causing her reputation to tarnish the streets. Fortunately, Su Lin has not yet registered, so it is not easy to punish. In addition, she has become a cripple, and even if she goes to the countryside, she cannot do much work. That's how I avoided going to the countryside. In the second year, Sun and Su Kun were 16 years old and met the conditions for going to the countryside, but the Su family arranged work for them in a timely manner. Both of them escaped the fate of going to the countryside and became popular in the city. But she became a laughable cripple. In her past life, she wondered why the Su family was so cruel. In this life, Su Lin understood that the Su family was afraid that she would break free from control, and they just wanted to imprison her. In this life, she won't follow the footsteps of her past life. If she wants to break her leg, then she will first break the other person's leg. Su Lin's eyes flickered with fierce sparks, and the curved corners of her mouth showed a hint of abnormality. Su Lin claims not to be a bad person, but she is definitely not a good person either. She has always insisted that you don't provoke me, and I don't provoke you. If you provoke me, you will still use color. She eats everything, just not at a loss, not feeling upset. To seek revenge on the spot and not to seek revenge 10 times on the spot. Spitting out a mouthful of turbid air, Su Lin began to sort out the skills left by the system for her. Firstly, the spatial and wooden abilities obtained in the apocalyptic plane are present. She has cultivated spatial abilities to level 9 in the apocalypse and has also developed many spatial skills. For example, space black holes, space jumps, and large spatial shifts are used to sprinkle sand and stones in the mouth of the Su family. However, she currently only has one level of superpowers and can only use space black holes. She cannot be too far away and cannot use them if she exceeds 10 meters. Many spatial skills require spatial ability levels to be used. The wooden ability is also at level 1. With the wooden ability, combined with the medical skills she gained in ancient planes, the therapeutic effect is remarkable. In addition to powers and medical skills, the system also left her with the mystical skills she learned in the parallel planes where mysticism was prevalent. In that era, her mystical skills were cultivated to the ceiling of the plane at that time. She was proficient in physiognomy, calligraphy, fortune-telling, feng shui, and exorcism and ghost catching. There were no other skills left for her besides that. I don't know if encountering unexpected situations in the future will stimulate other skills, so let's leave this for later verification. After taking a shower and changing into clean clothes, Su Lin arrived at the large warehouse, which was filled with assets left by the system for her. She had to take stock of her own money to plan for the next step, but when she entered the warehouse, she was dumbfounded. What about her thousands of square piles full of treasures? Where did it go? Holding a heart dripping with blood, Su Lin gritted her teeth and resisted the urge to curse around in search. The row of shelves on the left side of the warehouse against the wall are filled with ordinary medicinal herbs, as well as various medicinal seeds. Besides that, it's just an empty shelf, where all the gold, silver, jewelry, rare treasures, various elixirs, and spiritual treasures that were previously stored are missing. Seeing Su Lin is really heartbreaking. Those are all small money, life-saving things. Sigh, her fate is so hard. To come into this world, one must work hard to earn a little money. On the right side of the warehouse, also against the wall, there are neatly stacked snake skin bags. Su Lin roughly counted, there must be over 40 bags. She quickly stepped forward to check and breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. I saw the bag filled with snow-white wheat flour and crystal clear rice. In addition, there are common foods such as soybeans, corn, sweet potatoes, and potatoes. With some of this, Su Lin doesn't have to worry about starving for a short time. Not long after, she found 2 large boxes full of dust in the northwest corner of the warehouse. After seeing it, Su Lin's heart rose with anticipation. It wouldn't be a treasure there, would it? She quickly ran over and opened it to check, and now Su Lin was happy. 2 robots that she had collected in the high-tech space came out of the box. The manual of the first robot indicates that it is a farming robot, the chip of the robot inputs various knowledge related to the field. Whether it's growing crops, flowers and plants, or medicinal herbs, they are all skilled. With this robot, Su Lin can trust the robot to take care of those 10 acres of land. The second robot is a medical assistant, which inputs various skills such as medicinal herb brewing, drug making, and surgical assistant into the chip. With this robot, there are many tasks of brewing medicinal herbs and making a large number of medicines. Su Lin can become a hands-off shopkeeper and hand over the work to the robot. If there is an emergency situation that requires surgery or wound dressing, this robot can also help. It's simply not too practical. Just Su Lin remembers that she had collected over a dozen robots back then. Why are there only 2 left here? Alas, forget it. If you can't figure it out, don't think about it. Su Lin set aside this idea and quickly activated the robot. I won't say anything, let the robot farm first. After activating the farming robot, it will be named Tian Tian, and in the future, let's deal with Tiandi. The medical assistant robot is named Shinjun and kept for its own use. Su Lin believes that she will become a particularly skilled divine doctor in the future. Let her become famous in all directions in this world and her voice shake the world. On 10 acres of land, Su Lin left half of the crops and half of the medicinal herbs. In the future, if there are fruit trees, they can also be transplanted into the space. In this way, she can achieve the freedom of fruits, food, and as for the freedom of medicinal herbs, this goal is too ambitious. Just this 10-acre space alone, planting all kinds of medicinal herbs cannot achieve the goal of medicinal herb freedom. She should focus on the medicinal herbs she needs. Due to the severe lack of nutrition and overdraft in her body, Su Lin decided to first refine Rongyang pills to regulate her body. Fortunately, the counterattack system still has some conscience, leaving her with medicinal herbs. Otherwise, she would have to put in some effort to regulate her body. Su Lin inputted the recipe she had written into Shinjun's panel, and Shinjun immediately recorded it and started working. With the help of the robot, Su Lin spent over 2 hours making 100 Rongyang pills. This pill was developed by an ancient divine physician and has a miraculous effect on regulating the body, as well as the function of prolonging life. In that aspect, it could be said that a single medicine was hard to find, and in this period of the Dragon Kingdom, it was an extinct divine medicine. If it spreads, someone will definitely break their head and come to grab it. Su Lin took out a pill and stuffed it into her mouth. Soon, a warm current rose up in her body, swimming towards her limbs. Su Lin knew that Rongyang pill had taken effect, and she didn't want to waste medicinal herbs. She immediately left the room, sitting cross-legged on Sunwan's bed to regulate breathing, striving to maximize the absorption of the efficacy of Rongyang pills. The next morning, Su Lin woke up amidst the noise of falling and beating at the Su family. At this time in the past, Su Lin had already prepared breakfast and stood at the table being scolded. The curses also reminded Su Lin of the tragic days of the past, and she suddenly became angry. Chapter 5. She was really fooled to death by herself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Lin jumped up from the bed with anger and walked quickly to the kitchen. Her eyes were dim as she stared at Su's mother, who was cursing, staring at Su's mother with a furry expression in her heart. She nervously swallowed saliva and frowned weakly, asking, "Look, what are you looking at? Look at your ugly appearance, look at the flowers you play with, look at your brain going through the rectum, look at you spraying feces early in the morning, look at how dark your heart is, how white your face is, how much black smoke your ancestors emitted, giving birth to such a thing as you, look at you, you're a scumbag. If you don't beat someone for a day, you'll itch. If you don't beat someone for 2 days, you'll go crazy. Look at you." After Su Lin finished scolding, she took 2 steps forward and grabbed Su's mother's hair, swung her fist, and gave her a chubby beating. After beating her, she dropped a sentence, "I want to eat boiled eggs, 10. 1 less, beat your son up, 2 less, grab your son and beat the man together, 3 less will be pounded on your whole family. After speaking, he lifted his head and walked away, his graceful figure watching Sue's mother's eyes spewing fire and biting her silver teeth. If it weren't for being unbeatable, she would have let this little slut know why the flowers are so red. After waking up, Su Lin decided to get up. Today at noon, someone from the Educated Youth Office will come and she needs to resolve the relationship between her biological parents before going to the countryside. Su Lin wants to know what her biological parents are thinking. If she doesn't want to recognize her parents, she will end her relationship early. Don't wait until she becomes wealthy in the future, and that family will stick it up shamelessly. Su Lin doesn't want to give them a chance to disgust herself in the future. In addition, Su Lin also wants to know if the Qin family will recognize their relatives as they have not been crippled in their lifetime, or is it true that raising a daughter is their top priority? No matter whether their legs are limp or not, they will not recognize their relatives. Because Su Lin beat up Su's mother when she got up in bed, it made old lady Su and the others dare not breathe when eating. That's because I'm afraid that Su Lin will give them a good beating if she doesn't like it, but most importantly, if they get beaten, there's no way to reason. Because they checked and found out that they were beaten so badly last night, and their whole body was in excruciating pain, but there were no traces left on their bodies. Until now, the bones are still painful, but the skin is still intact, without even a bruise or swelling. This money loser is ruthless. They need time to properly sum up before taking action. They don't do such foolish things as rushing to fight. After finishing her meal, Su Lin threw away her chopsticks and reached out her small hand, coldly saying, "Give me 10 yuan, give me a meal for a penny less." Without a clear explanation of who to fight, everyone present understood. Mrs. Su hesitated for a moment, quickly slipped off the table, and ran back into the room with her small feet. Returning to the house didn't count, but locking the door latch made Su's mother roll her eyes. The dead old lady is usually quite conspicuous. What would she run for? Pooh, an old man who bullies the weak and fears the hard. Su's mother ignored Su Lin's small hand and turned her gaze to her own man. This family still requires a man to make decisions. Su Lin's gaze also shifted to Su's father's face. Su's father has a Chinese character face, an eagle-hooked nose, and eyes that follow Mrs. Su's, also known as triangular eyes. The lips are very thin, giving the impression of being both sinister and ruthless. They are also the most cunning and ruthless person in the Su family. It was Su's idea to change children back then, but this person is smart and doesn't personally take action, but instead, he encouraged Su's mother and Mrs. Su to switch children. After the child was replaced, it was also Su's father who hid behind and encouraged them to abuse the child. Su's father occasionally jumped out to pretend to be a good person. Even if he broke Su Lin's leg, Su's father could say it was for Su Lin's good, from black to white. Reluctant to let Su Lin go to the countryside to endure hardship, he had no choice but to do so. Everything he did was for Su Lin's good. He will turn red-eyed and beg for Su Lin's forgiveness. Even if he doesn't forgive, don't hate him. He is just a father who wants to keep his child by his side to protect him. Su Lin recalled her past life, believing it to be true and looking at her father with tears in her eyes. Oh, Su Lin remembered that scene and wanted to poke her own eyes. She was really blind and foolish in her past life. She was really stupid to death by herself. Su Lin felt her fists hard, and she wanted to smash that extremely hypocritical face. Feeling the murderous aura emanating from Su Lin's body, Su's father, who was particularly practical, stubbornly shouted at Su's mother with a stern face. "Give it to her." After shouting at Su's mother, she turned her head and stared into Su Lin's eyes, saying in a particularly gentle voice. Lin, I've worked hard for you all these years. Dad remembers all the efforts you've made for this family. Don't worry, when you get married, my dad will definitely prepare a generous dowry for you and won't treat you unfairly. Take this money and buy some snacks from the supply and marketing cooperative. When he saw Su Lin squinting his peach blossom eyes, Su's father suddenly felt his skin tighten. He remembered the scene of Su Lin riding on him and fighting yesterday. At that time, Su Lin was squinting her peach blossom eyes, swinging her small fist, punching one fist after another, punching to the flesh. He hasn't recovered from the fight for a long time, and even now he still feels a lot of flesh and bone pain. Su's father swallowed his saliva anxiously and quickly shouted, "Kun, damn it, get a cloth ticket for the child and have them wear new clothes." As he spoke, Shuangwen, who was sitting next to him watching the play, immediately became jealous. Why did he give this loser new clothes? She hasn't pulled on any new clothes this year. Su Kun didn't do it anymore, his mouth opened and he wanted to howl. Su Lin threw a knife at him, and he immediately shrank and closed his mouth. Su's mother felt sorry for the small money and hesitated to go. However, her father threw a knife at her and she immediately trembled before rushing towards the room. Seeing the small movements of Su's parents, Su Lin raised her eyebrows. This was a small action she had overlooked in her past life. In her past life, Su Lin had always thought that Su's father was afraid of the inside and was a person who was lying on his ears, but now it seems that this is not the case. Sure enough, she was so blind in her past life. Quickly, Su's mother rushed back to the living room and without hesitation, quickly handed the money and tickets to Su Lin, fearing that it would be a second late. Su Lin put away her money ticket and chuckled coldly at her father before getting up and leaving. That action coated Su's triangular eyes with poison and watched Su Lin disappear. Su's father then gritted his teeth and cursed. "Little slut, your wings are hard, you want to turn the tide." Kun's father, how can we deal with this? Our whole family can't even beat her by adding one piece. Do you think something dirty might have gotten on the little slut? After Su's mother finished speaking, she rubbed her arms. Oh my, that's too scary. Su's father didn't answer the conversation, but kept staring at Su Lin's back disappearing at the entrance of the courtyard. He then withdrew his gaze and said, "In jinsa. Whether she's human or a ghost, I won't make her feel better." After finishing speaking, Su's father waved, and Su's mother immediately put on her ears. Shuangwen and Su Kun also leaned their heads together, looking curious. Unfortunately, the two of them did not hear Su's words and were instead driven to school. Leaving the courtyard of the Su family, Su Lin turned around and looked at the courtyard, her eyes flashing with contemplation. Su's parents are both ordinary workers, so they are not qualified to live in a house with a yard in a machinery factory. Unfortunately, they got it. Have we ever played Chapter 6? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why can the Su family be allocated a yard? Why can the Su family be allocated a yard? Did they already secretly recognize the fake daughter? Is this courtyard obtained through the guise of a fake daughter? Su Lin's thought of this possibility made her whole person feel bad. With a plethora of doubts and anger, she arrived at the finance bureau, where her biological father Qin Jiaxing worked. Although the old man of the Qin family came from a mud-legged background, he was an old revolutionary who had fought his way through life and death for the Dragon Kingdom, charging into battle and making great contributions. Later on, she married Feng, a young lady from a progressive and declining family, who was also the aunt of Feng Huimei, the wife of Qin Jiaxing. Because it was a close relationship, Feng Huimei was quite respectable in her husband's family, able to speak up and live a more fulfilling life than in her mother's family. With the strong support of the Qin and Feng families, Qin Jiaxing has become the head of the finance bureau early on and is expected to enter the ministry in the next 2 years. That's really a bright future. Su Lin remembers that in her past life, Qin Jiaxing sang high all the way and achieved the position of minister, which was a height that many people wanted but could not reach. Bringing the Qin family to a new height. Su Lin lowered her head to look at the letter in her hand, which stated her experience of being transferred with the fake daughter and also included photos of the Su family as a whole. However, Su Lin is not shown in this family photo. Su Lin never appears in the photos of the Su family, as if she is not a part of this family. Before Su Lin could wait for long, Qin Jiaxing appeared in her sight. Looking at the familiar peach blossom eyes, Su Lin took a deep breath, suppressed her rolling thoughts, and quickly stepped forward. Today, Su Lin did not intend to have a direct conversation with Qin Jiaxing. Instead, when the two got off together, she handed the letter to Qin Jiaxing and quickly left. Upon receiving the letter, Qin Jiaxing furrowed his brow, pinched the letter in his hand, and stared at Su Lin's back for 2 seconds before quickly stepping into the finance bureau. Later, Su Lin followed suit and sent a letter with family photos to Feng Huimei before quickly leaving. Su Lin decided to go to the countryside with the flow, so she needed to take a good stroll around the capital of the Dragon Kingdom before going to the countryside. Familiarize yourself with the environment and prices in Kyoto, and it's best to find another opportunity to earn a large sum of money to take to the countryside. Even if you can't make money, you still have to get some supplies to go to the countryside. Su Lin easily entered the shopping mode, but Qin Jiaxing and Feng Huimei's hearts were restless. When they finished reading the letter, they were still half convinced. But when they saw the photo, they were completely convinced. Because their daughter Qin Feng looks so much like the woman in the photo, both with long faces, big eyes, and thick lips. I thought my daughter's face shape would follow the trend of the Qin family, all with thin and long faces. Now it seems that this is just a fake. When Qin Jiaxing and Feng Huimei thought that their daughter, who had been in pain for 16 years, was a fake, they both felt uneasy. The most important thing is that Qin Feng and the children of the Su family have a good relationship, and both families are very optimistic about this pair. As expected, the two will be betrothed at the age of 18, becoming a link for further alliance between the Qin and Su families. Expanding the power of the Qin and Su families can also lead to a higher and farther career path for the Qin family. If it is rumored that Qin Feng is not a child of the Qin family, will the marriage alliance with the Su family be affected? The most important thing is, what does one's biological daughter look like and can she take on corresponding responsibilities? Throughout the morning, both Qin Jiaxing and Feng Huimei were restless. Before finishing work, Feng Huimei couldn't help but hang up a phone call to Qin Jiaxing, vaguely mentioning that she had received a letter. Qin Jiaxing's eyelids twitched wildly upon hearing this, and he made an appointment to go home and have a face-to-face conversation after work, fearing that there might be a leak on the phone. Qin Jiaxing didn't wait until the end of work time and went to the health bureau to pick him up. He didn't rush home after meeting Feng Huimei, but stopped at a park. The two of them looked around and sat down by the river, exchanging information quietly. While they were exchanging information and discussing what to do, Su Lin was strolling through the black market and found that 10 yuan was really not much. 10 yuan can't even buy 10 pounds of wheat flour on the black market, and it was only then that Su Lin realized how dark the price was on the black market. Wheat flour only costs 1.5 yuan and a ticket to buy 1 kilogram at a grain shop, but it has increased tenfold in the black market, so you don't need a ticket to buy 1 kilogram. In the 75 years when the per capita salary was only a few tens of yuan, the average working family really couldn't afford rice and noodles. General. Su Linmeng widened her eyes. This should generally include the Su family, but the Su family has never cut off rice noodles. Why is this? Is it a fake daughter's hand again? With doubts in mind, Su Lin hurriedly returned to the Su family. She decided not to go out this afternoon and to thoroughly investigate the Su family. Look at any secrets of the Su family that she doesn't know. Coincidentally, when Su Lin arrived home, the staff from the youth education office left, and both sides met not far from Su's door. After seeing off the person in charge of the educated youth office, Su's mother frowned and whispered, "Kuen's father, really let that loser go to the countryside? What do you have in mind?" Su's father didn't answer the question, and old lady Su sat beside her, staring at the conversation with her triangular eyes, without rushing to express her opinion. Losing money is becoming more and more outrageous. I'm afraid she might lose control when she goes to the countryside. As long as her household registration is still in our house, we can hold on to her fate, if that's right. Sue's mother spoke halfway, gesturing for Sue's father to think for himself. Mrs. Sue next to her nodded frequently, understanding her daughter-in-law's concerns. If this person's household registration is moved out, it will be far away and they cannot control what happens. What I'm most afraid of is the loser. If he encounters the Chin family, he will face that person. It's not good if someone recognizes him. It's better to trap people at home, not only to help the family work, but also to hold people in the palm of your hand. It's up to them to decide whether to die or live. Thinking of this, Mrs. Sue joined the discussion. Sue's father was still not in a hurry to express his opinion. After listening to his wife and mother's concerns, Sue's father leisurely said, "If it's really not possible, break her leg and keep it at home." "Well, that's a good idea," Mrs. Sue gave her a thumbs up. "It's best to break both legs, so she can escape and speak recklessly." "But have we ever been able to fight?" Sue's mother took the conversation and poured a basin of cold water on her head, causing Sue's father and Sue's old lady to become both introverted. "It's really a big problem that we can't win. This problem still has to be solved." After a while, Mrs. Sue gritted her teeth and said, "It's okay. In the afternoon, after you go to work, I'll go get some medicine and come back." Upon hearing this, Sue's father quietly breathed a sigh of relief, while Sue's mother didn't ask for any medicine. Instead, she nodded in agreement and twisted her waist into the kitchen. She scolded Su Lin while walking, cursing that she didn't know where to go and didn't know where to come back to cook when it was time for dinner. She worked half a day and had to cook when she came back, which was to exhaust her. As she was cursing fiercely, she looked up and met Su Lin's dark eyes. In an instant, Sue's mother felt her consciousness enter a black hole. Before she could wake up, Su Lin's fist had already hit Sue's mother, causing her father and old lady to both change color in shock. Chapter 7. Scratching the Su Family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Lin's first punch hit Sue's mother's vocal cords, preventing her from making screams and disturbing her ears. The second punch hit Sue's mother's big mantu, and her painful pupils contracted and enlarged, as if she were going to heaven. Following that was the third and fourth punches. Su Lin punched 28 punches in one breath, causing Sue's mother to roll on the ground before finally stopping. Su Lin got up and kicked Sue's mother. She said coldly, "I want to eat braised pork belly, go and cook." Sue's mother. "You'll beat me to death." Sue's mother, who was shrouded in pain, dared not snort and could only watch Su Lin enter the hall with resentment. The thought of the man mother-in-law in the hall not coming out to help her made Sue's mother feel cold. Those two people who are greedy for life and afraid of death actually watched her get beaten. It's really not something. Wiping away her tears, Sue's mother sucked in the cold air and got up from the ground, then hobbled into the kitchen. After standing there for a while, I quickly went to the cabinet to rummage through the meat. I don't know if the little slut has a dog nose. Why do they know they bought pork belly at home? Su Lin entered the main room and found that Mrs. Su and her father had each returned to their respective rooms. Their doors were tightly closed, without even a crack left. "Oh," Su Lin rolled her eyes. "I didn't expect these guys to get scared after beating them up." Su Lin actually hoped they could provoke them a few more times. "Tisk, it's really boring." Su Lin returned to Sun Wan's room and began to look around. Sun Wan's room is very normal, with no holes dug on the walls and no secret rooms dug underground. The cabinets and tables don't even have compartments, and Sun Wan's private room money adds up to just over 8 yuan. Su Lin rudely took in her own space, and over 8 yuan was also money. She had never saved 8 yuan in her past life until her death. Throwing herself onto the bed, Su Lin pondered over the conversation she had heard among the three people standing in the courtyard. The dead old lady said she wants to get medicine. What medicine does she want to get? In her past life, her fighting ability was weak. After Sue's father came back from work, he directly broke her leg with a stick, but there was no need to get medicine. After lunch, while going to school and working, Mrs. Sue also walked out with her small feet. When there was only Su Lin left at home, she began to take action. The Su family's house consists of 3 main rooms, with a main hall in the middle and east and west bedrooms on either side. The sleeping rooms are Mrs. Sue and her parents, Mr. Sue. There are 2 rooms in the east wing where Su Kun and Sun Wan are sleeping. A kitchen and a miscellaneous room were built against the wall to the west, and 4 bedrooms were divided among the 4 masters of the Su family. Su Lin usually can only rest in a corner of the main room. In order not to embarrass herself, she also rolls up her bedding during the day to prevent outsiders from discovering her. As for why she wasn't allowed to sleep in the kitchen or utility room, Su Lin herself didn't know. She first went to the door of Su's father and mother's room, which was locked. This couldn't help Su Lin. She took a rusty flower needle 3 or 2 times and then opened it. The room is filled with mahogany furniture, and Su Lin knows that it will be very valuable in a few decades. She didn't feel in the mood to appreciate it, so she quickly started searching. With this search, Su Lin's eyes lit up. She surprisingly found an entrance to a secret room under their beds, where there were 5 large boxes and a small box. Su Lin didn't rush to check what was inside the box, but waved her hand and took it into the warehouse before continuing the search. Quickly, she found a stack of neatly stacked small coins in the mezzanine space of the cabinet, all of which were big unity pieces of 10 yuan each. Su Lin quickly counted and found 500 yuan, and without saying a word, she collected it into her own space. It's all Didi. There is a small iron box on the top of the cabinet, filled with over 300 yuan and a roll of tickets. Then I found 200 in the shoe box, 800 in the inner pocket of my clothes, and several letters in the wall hole. Su Lin opened the letter with curiosity and her face sank like water. She really didn't expect that Su's father had colluded with foreign countries. And it's not just ordinary collusion, it's selling intelligence. If this matter were exposed, Su Lin would sweat a cold sweat from behind. No matter what era, spies and traitors have no good fate. The key is that one person breaks the law and affects 3 generations. Su Lin doesn't want to be implicated by Su's father. I didn't expect that Su, who was surrounded by 5 or 6 people, was completely indifferent behind his back. It seems that the Su family's wealth has little to do with fake heirs, and changing children may not be that easy. However, this discovery did not make Su Lin feel much better, but instead made her even more angry. No, she needs to break ties with this family earlier, she can't be implicated by the Su family. Su Lin finished flipping through Su's father's room and then Mrs. Su's room. The old lady's mouth was very poisonous and her clothes were neat, but the room was very messy. The room was chaotic like a pig's nest, and Su Lin carefully flipped through it. I found over 100 pieces in the pillow, and a hole in the bed leg with a gold ring and a pair of gold earrings stuffed inside. I still found a 1-foot square hole under the cabinet, inside which lies a cookie box. There is a pair of bracelets with good water head inside, 2 jade pendants, 5 small yellow croakers, and a dozen or so silver dollars. Su Lin happily collected all these things into the space. As for whether the Su family will discover that something has been stolen, Su Lin is not worried at all. What if they discover it? Do they dare to report it to the public security? In the afternoon, Su Lin searched both inside and outside the yard and dug out 10 large boxes under the wall. Besides that, there was no other discovery, and even so, Su Lin was very happy. She was originally thinking about going to the black market to sell some grain for money, but now, what are we selling? Let's keep it and make it ourselves. Taking advantage of the fact that the Su family had not yet returned, Su Lin returned to her room and flashed into the space warehouse, happily opening the blind box. She first opened the 15 large boxes and found 3 boxes filled with books, calligraphy, and paintings, and 5 boxes filled with porcelain. Porcelain has plates, bowls, teapots, vases, etc. The oldest can be traced back to the Tang dynasty, and the most recent is the Qing dynasty. There is also a box full of yellow croker, a box of silver ingots, a box of silver coins, and 2 boxes of gemstone jewelry. That jewelry is still a complete set, and you can tell at a glance that it's worth a lot, and I don't know where the Xu family got it from. Just these things were enough for Su Lin to lie down and eat. Thinking that there was still a small box that hadn't been opened, Su Lin quickly picked it up. Upon opening it, she found that the small box was full of US dollars. She counted it and found that there were a total of 23,200 US dollars. I'll go. Su Lin raised her hand to support her chest, but she still had limited knowledge. She didn't expect the Xu family to hide so deeply, no wonder the rice and noodles kept turning white. No one will break it. Su Lin took a deep breath and was about to make some delicious celebration when someone pushed open the courtyard door. She immediately dodged out of the space. Mrs. Xu covered her pocket and cautiously approached Su Lin's window, leaning her head out to look inside. Suddenly, a pair of dark pupils appeared in front of her, which frightened old lady Xu and made her sit on the ground with a loud cry. Su Lin stood tall and squinted her peach blossom eyes, staring coldly at Mrs. Xu, who was sweating profusely. You. Mrs. Xu covered her chest and cursed Yaosho secretly, trying to scare her to death. Chapter 8. Mother, did you buy the medicine? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Mother, did you buy the medicine? Su Lin didn't wait for Su Laotai to come up with something, so she started cursing first. What are you? You're a thief at your age, and you're not afraid of being struck by lightning. Old Lady Xu, who was still scolded as a thief at an old age, was very angry. She was in her own home, so why bother to be a thief? Facing Su Lin's pitch-black eyes, she silently closed her mouth again. Forget it, she still pretended to be dead. Who made this little slut go crazy now, and his actions are black and poisonous. Humph, wait. When her eldest son comes back, we must deal with this little slut thoroughly. Not only do she have to break her legs, but also her hands. How dare she wave her fists at herself? Mrs. Xu thought maliciously in her heart, but an awkward smile appeared on her face, with a hint of flattery as she said. Lin, look at what you're saying. Nei's age doesn't need to be arranged. It's rumored that you don't have a tutor. Tutoring. Su Lin chuckled, damn old lady, you have the face to talk to me about tutoring, your family of thieves, where did you have the face to talk to me about tutoring? You are the thief, you are a family of thieves. Mrs. Xu relied on Su Lin inside the house and bravely fought back, but halfway through, something went wrong. What does your family mean? You. What are you? You. Mrs. Xu's expression was uncertain, wanting to ask, but she didn't dare to ask. Yes, it's you, your son, your daughter. In.law, your family's thieves. Su Lin leaned on the windowsill with her chin propped up, mocking and asking, aren't you curious why I suddenly seemed like a different person? Curious. Mrs. Xu said that I am almost curious. I also suspect that you have dirty things on your body. I also brought you talismans, and I am planning to enlarge and collect you tonight. But what exactly makes a little slut's temperament change so much? Mrs. Xu carefully savored your 2 words, feeling greatly surprised. A guess came to her mind, and she pointed to Su Lin with trembling hands and asked in surprise. You know. You know. Knowing something, old lady Xu didn't say it out, but Su Lin understood and her face became even more sarcastic. If you want people to know, you must do nothing else. Su Lin stared at Su Laotai's guilty and evasive eyes and continued to curse, a bunch of shameless, and immoral thieves who smoke, stealing someone else's life, engaging in heartless abuse and PUA, but you really have it, are you not afraid of the cycle of fate and retribution? Are you not afraid of losing children and grandchildren? Mrs. Su's eyes flickered as she was pointed at and scolded, feeling guilty and short of breath. She dared not look directly into Su Lin's eyes. Thinking of Su Lin's combat prowess, she silently propped her hands on the ground and quietly moved out without saying anything. She wanted to escape first. If the little slut continues to curse, she will definitely get angry and hit her hard. When it comes to changing children, Mrs. Su feels guilty. However, Su Lin was not in a hurry to take action. She just watched coldly and sneered at Su Laotai's fear of death. Mrs. Su, who was laughing, let out a loud cry as she got up and ran away. Oh my, it's so scary. The little slut is so abnormal. No, she needs to discuss with her son and daughter.in-law carefully, and not let the little slut ruin the prosperity of her granddaughter. After driving away the obstruction, Su Lin lay back in bed, thinking about what to do next. The Qin family should have obtained the investigation materials now, and I don't know what choice they would make. As Su Lin guessed, the Qin family has already sent someone to investigate Su Lin's information, and the whole family is gathering with the old man to discuss this matter. After reading the materials, Mr. Qin angrily patted the table, and surprisingly, his well-behaved granddaughter was replaced. Even if it's changed, it's still not well cultivated. What can I do after reading only 2 years of books? And with a timid, insecure, and silent personality tormented by the Su family, can such a granddaughter bear the responsibility of the family? Qin Laotai saw her husband feeling scared and quickly comforted her by saying, "Old man, calm down, calm down. You're not in good health, but you can't withstand great sorrow and anger. You make me calm down. How do you make me calm down? My good granddaughter has been nurtured as a waste by them. You say, what should I do about this?" The more Mr. Qin thought about it, the more angry he became, and he even looked down on his son and daughter.in-law. Two useless things, unable to even hold on to their own children, were unexpectedly replaced under the watchful eye. The most important thing is that after raising them for 16 years, not a single one found out. Are they all blind? Qin's father raised his hand and wiped away a cold sweat. He quickly apologized and didn't say anything. It was all his fault, he didn't take good care of the child. Dad, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. It was because I was busy with work back then and couldn't find time to be with the hospital, giving the villain a chance. You can hit or scold me, but don't get angry and ruin your body, right, Dad. It's all our fault for making mistakes. You must take care of your health. Qin's mother followed suit, her face full of concern, afraid that the old man might get angry at any cost. This is the Qin family's calming needle. With the presence of the old man, their status cannot be shaken. But if the old man is gone, their family's future will be greatly affected, and a man's career may even come to an end. Seeing that the old man's anger had decreased slightly, Qin's mother said, "Dad, you see, this has all happened. We have also raised Fenger for over a decade. Fenger and the Su family are still dating. What should they do if the situation spreads?" Mr. Qin remained silent. Yes, the matter between Fenger and the Su family's young man is related to the formal alliance between the two families. If they cannot handle it well, they are afraid that the alliance will be ruined. Mrs. Su, who had escaped from the yard, dared not go home and had to guard the entrance of the alley. She waited for a long time before finally waiting for her father. The mother and son leaned towards the corner and murmured for a while, looking quite unattractive. Su's father only felt that this matter was very tricky. The news of changing children must not be spread, otherwise their years of planning would have been in vain. And it has spread. Do they still need the face of the Su family? What if the Qin family retaliates? Can they bear it? No, we need to make a good total, it's really not enough. Mom, have you bought the medicine? I bought it back, I bought enough. It's not a problem to even knock down an elephant. Mrs. Xu patted her pocket and gestured for it to be inside. Su's father breathed a sigh of relief after seeing it. As long as there is medicine that can bring people down, how to deal with the little bitch and the Xu family is the final say. As long as the lid is tightly covered, no one can try to uncover the truth. Back then, I said I would drown someone, but you didn't agree. Now, it's better to raise a white-eyed wolf and devour our family. Mrs. Xu complained, filled with regret in her heart. If this person had been killed early, there would have been no trouble today. I didn't expect things to explode. Su's father pondered, remembering where he had stumbled. It was clear that their family had been very careful in guarding this secret. Chapter 9 Medication. Mrs. Xu looked at her contemplative son and said with some regret. There is no impermeable wall in this world, and exposure is a matter of time. If it had been exposed earlier, it would have been great. At that time, the little slut was still under our control, and we were free to crush and beat him around. It's a pity. Thinking of the once honest, obedient, and capable little slut, old lady Xu sighed leisurely. Unfortunately, I'm afraid I won't be able to enjoy the service of a little slut in the future. If she were to know who leaked the news, she would have to tear up that person's mouth and dare to harm the good deeds of his Xu family. This feud has escalated. Soon after Su's mother returned from work, the three of them met and discussed for a while before walking home with heavy steps. They cautiously returned to the yard and probed their heads and minds to observe. After not realizing the danger, we took a step forward together, and then Su Lin was waiting for someone at the right time. Seeing the three people sneaking in made her happy, then he rushed out of the room without saying a word and landed on the ground, beating him hard. After beating her up, Su Lin stood in front of the three of them admiring her masterpiece. Very good, except for a pale complexion and distorted facial features, no external injuries were found. Let's take a look at their curled-up bodies again. This time, the focus is on hitting their bone marrow. What is pain in the bone marrow? Now that's it. Look at their twisted facial features, like the cold sweat of rain, to know what level of pain they are experiencing. The most important thing is to play a few more times, and within 2 months, the sequelae will appear. The first person to collapse was Mrs. Xu, who has been harsh and ruthless all her life. I want to see how miserable her fate was when she collapsed on the bed, which was even more painful than directly taking the life of a dead woman. Next up was Su's mother, and Su Lin focused on her 2 arms. Su's mother's arm first became fragile with bones, breaking at a touch. After enduring 1 or 2 years of torture, both arms will completely become useless and become decorations. Next up is Su's father, who likes to break people's legs so much that Su Lin will make his limbs useless. Let's take a look at how Su, who has become a waste, still sells intelligence and interrupts others. Ah, Su Lin said that I am a person who holds grudges. Not only do I hold grudges, but I am also very good at torturing people, making them live less than death. The most important thing is that before that, Su Lin will break ties with them. Su Lin doesn't want this family to be abandoned and then come forward to suck blood. Even if she doesn't provide blood, she doesn't want to see them come together to be disgusting. As for Su Kun and Sun Wan, Su Lin lowered her eyes. They were not good people either, but they were not in a hurry to seek revenge. Let them take on the responsibility of being children first. Let's see if Mrs. Xu and her mother will continue to dote on the Xu family after their misfortune. Let's take a look at how they fall in love and kill each other with the fake daughter. That scene is so exciting to imagine. Su Lin's heart was filled with beauty, and the murderous look in her eyes dissipated a bit. She coldly dropped a sentence, "I want to eat chicken tonight." After speaking, he turned around and returned to his room. As for where the three of them went to get the chicken, it was their business. Su Lin said that the small money I left in their room was not for them to waste, it was for my food expenses. When Su Lin disappeared, Su's mother couldn't help but cry because her throat couldn't make a sound and looked quite penetrating. Su's father and Mrs. Xu looked at each other, and their similar triangular eyes emitted a sinister light. Sue's mother dragged her painful body to make a sumptuous dinner, with a pot of chicken soup, a plate of braised pork ribs, 2 green vegetables, and white rice. Eating plain rice is definitely a very happy thing these days, and adding 2 hard dishes would double happiness. Anyway, Shuangwen and Shuangwen felt very happy, even the pain on their bodies was much lighter. With a pleasing smile on her face, Sue's mother first filled a bowl for Su Lincheng and placed it in front of Su Lin. Lin, please, she said. Su Lin raised her eyebrows, using honorific names. Did she feel scared or didn't she? If you're scared, she still has the courage to put hallucinogenic drugs in chicken soup. If you're not scared, she might even use you. Respecting the elderly and loving the young is a traditional virtue of the Dragon Kingdom. Let's give her this bowl. Speaking, Su Lin placed the full chicken soup in front of Mrs. Su, making her face turn green and quickly declined. No, this is your favorite chicken soup, Grandma. Su Lin's face sank, and a faint threat emanated from her nose. She was so frightened that old lady Su trembled and didn't dare to call her grandmother. She quickly changed her voice, I'm sorry to argue with you, please. The wrinkled face was covered in flattering fake smiles, leaving Shuangwen and Shuangwen confused. What, is there someone who doesn't like the strong and fragrant chicken soup? If you don't like it, you can give it to them, they don't mind. Shuangwen, the greedy ghost, couldn't help but interject for a moment and said, you guys don't want to eat. Give it to me, I don't mind. Okay. Su Lin didn't give old lady Su a chance to refuse, so she immediately placed the chicken soup in front of Shuangwen. Let's drink it. Shuangwen smiled, and Mrs. Su's face turned even greener. Su's mother's eyes almost widened and her fists became hard. Su's father's heart lifted up to his throat, and his eyes kept glancing towards the nearby stick. Only Shuangwen noticed nothing and stared at the bowl of chicken soup with envy, jealousy, and hatred on her face. She also wanted to drink it. Can't do it, Kuener, how could you grab food from your sister? Give it back to her quickly. Su's mother tugged at her hoarse throat and blinked her red eyes, hoping that the big one could understand, but not grab everything. Is there a problem with this chicken soup? Su Lin interrupted the eye contact between the two, her small face heavy like ink. Did you put medicine in the soup? A layer of white sweat emerged from behind the 3 of Su's mother in shock, and they all denied it in unison. We don't have it, how could we possibly prescribe medication? You misunderstood. After speaking, the 3 of them looked at each other and moved their eyes away with a guilty expression. Su's father was the first to react and quickly said. Since you are humble, Kuener, thank you sister quickly. After speaking, he also changed his expression and asked Shuangwen to nod his eyes. Don't rush to eat everything, but Shuangwen didn't have the expression and didn't understand. After expressing his gratitude with a divided heart, his eyes fell on the chicken soup and he leaned in his big mouth to prepare to drink. The hearts of the 3 of Su's father were just a reminder. Su knew that this bowl of chicken soup might not be able to stop him, so forget it. Anyway, it was a potion, so just drink it. He quickly signaled to Su's mother to serve another bowl and continue to dispense medicine. Anyway, this potion needs to be quickly taken by the little slut, otherwise when the situation is exposed, their family of 5 will not be able to escape the clutches. Upon realizing this, Su's mother quickly took action and soon a new bowl was placed in front of Su Lin. Smelling the faint scent of the medicine, Su Lin secretly pursed her lips. Su's mother's hand was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, the medicine was poured into the bowl. Chapter 10. Truly unfortunately, the Su family did not know that Su Lin inherited the divine medical skills she learned while performing tasks on the plane. This little trick won't hurt Su Lin, but Su Lin just doesn't want to drink according to their wishes, so this bowl of chicken soup appeared again in front of Mrs. Su, looking at her almost twisted face with a particularly happy smile. Drink it, but let's see if the dead old lady can still swallow it when she knows there is medicine in the soup. Thank you, Lin Lin. Mrs. Su gritted her back teeth and said, I won't drink it if it's too big. I watched the little slut drink it first. As long as you lay the person down, it's okay to waste a few bowls of chicken soup. Thinking about Mrs. Su in this way has calmed down a lot. Lin Lin, you can't let this bowl go any longer. If you let it go any longer, there won't be much good meat left, Su's mother advised by adding another bowl of chicken soup. She also stirred the spoon in the chicken soup bowl a few times, gesturing for Su Lin to look over and see that there were really not many good pieces of meat left. No scams. Oh, really? Su Lin smiled mischievously. She could use this potion, but these people didn't know. And even if it's placed in a bowl, do they dare to eat it? Since she didn't dare to eat, why didn't she give up a few more bowls to show that she was a good person who respected the old and loved the young? Su Lin happily placed the bowl in front of her father, expressing that she was a filial and good child, and of course, she gave the good things to the head of the family. Su's father was so moved that he almost vomited blood, but he couldn't openly refuse because he was afraid that Su Lin would see something. I can only grit my teeth and signal to Su Mu to continue. No big deal, all the medicine in the soup. As long as you can bring someone down, everything is worth it. Su's mother felt a pain in her flesh and served chicken soup bowl by bowl. In the end, the chicken soup in front of the whole family was drugged. And Su Kun and Sun Wan, who knew nothing, had already eaten it. Su Lin happily nibbled on braised pork ribs, without any intention of drinking chicken soup. Su's father and 3 others were in a hurry, sweating on their foreheads. Is there any good fruit left for the little slut to see? Su Kun and Sun Wan only took a few bites of chicken and 2 sips of soup, and they began to feel dizzy, with their eyes turning black. 2 eyelids drooped disobediently, and within 5 seconds, the 2 successfully knocked themselves down. Fearing that Su Lin might notice something, the 3 of Su's father hurriedly searched for excuses in a panic. They're tired of playing at school. Hee, seeing how tired they are, they fell asleep. Su said. Yes, they're exhausted. Oh, I don't know what they've been playing with, at such an old age, I don't know how to read more books. Su's mother takes the conversation. Mrs. Su nodded wildly. Her son and daughter-in-law were right, and she agreed, right. It's just that reading is too tiring. Reading requires a lot of thinking, and using your brain too much can easily make you foolish. Listen to who this family treats as fools to deceive. Su Lin rolled her eyes as she listened, pouting and continuing to eat. She needs to cultivate supernatural abilities and regulate her body. It is precisely when she needs nutrition and delicious food that she will not be polite. Under the eager gaze of Su's father and 3 others, Su Lin ate 5 bowls of big white rice and cleared away all the pork ribs and vegetables. Before her eyes, there was only chicken soup left, and she asked softly, "Don't you guys drink this chicken soup?" You drink. If you like, you drink more. Mrs. Su pretended to have a kind face and advised, Lin from our family is too thin, we need to supplement more. Speaking so, but cursing in my heart, the rice bucket, actually ate 5 big bowls of rice and finished all the food they cooked. Not a single piece of pork ribs was left for them. It's a reincarnation of a starving ghost. Thinking of the starving ghost, Mrs. Su's face turned a little whiter. Isn't it really the reincarnation of the starving ghost? Or rather, being possessed by a starving ghost is not enough to eat anything. Can the 3 of them be opponents of the starving ghost? Mrs. Su touched the talisman in her pocket and felt a bit unsafe. She immediately leaned in her father's ear and murmured softly. She thought her voice was very low, but Su Lin, who was unaware of her hearing, heard it clearly. Su's father didn't pay much attention to what his old mother said. His gaze fell on Su Lin's movements, and he saw her start drinking chicken soup, feeling calm. As long as you put the person down, you're not afraid of anything. However, soon Su and his father were dumbfounded. No, what was the situation? Why do people sit there still when they have finished drinking a bowl of chicken soup? Seeing Su Lin take away all the chicken soup in front of them, the three of them were even more shocked. I'm going, isn't it, still eating. If this person continues to be raised in their family, will they eat their family into poverty? No, as long as you break your hands and feet and give this little bitch more food, it's not there the final say. Yes, that's right. The three of them had eye contact, and Jing waited for Su Lin to faint. But they waited and waited, hoping and hoping, seeing that a pot of chicken soup had been finished, Su Lin was still full of energy. You have to say that the hallucinogenic drugs have no effect, the first two are still lying inside the house. Is it effective? Why is this person in front of Mao so energetic? Can't it be? The three of them were all shocked, and Su's father pointed at Su Lin with trembling hands and questioned, You already knew, didn't you? Yes, I already knew. Su Lin put down her bowl and elegantly wiped off the oil stains on the corners of her mouth, her peach blossom eyes half narrowing. That gaze, Su's father and the three of them were too familiar. This was the expression on Su Lin's face when she was about to take action. It's over, it's over. The three of them let out a growl and turned around wanting to run, but how could their speed compare to Su Lin? Eat and drink enough, but do not move around, otherwise it is easy to have a stomach. Su Lin knocked down all three of them and hit them hard on the floor of the main room. After beating her up, Su Lin sat down in a chair and said from a high position, There is a way to exchange children, and then you have to bear the consequences of the exchange. Frankly speaking, the last glimmer of luck disappeared in the hearts of the three, and their hearts trembled into a sieve. You. Su's father didn't want to admit it, but when he met Su Lin's cold and serene gaze, he understood that no amount of words were in vain. Finally, Su's father could only sit up slowly and say in an almost pleading tone, Lin, I'm sorry, we don't want to exchange children either. As parents, there is a child who doesn't love us. It's really Su's father's eyes turned red and he began his performance. Mrs. Su and he are truly mother and son, and with a blink of an eye, she understood her son's plan and immediately agreed. Mrs. Su blushed and said, Lin, don't blame your father and mother. They can't do anything about it. It's really. What is it really? Mrs. Su didn't say it, and I don't know how to say it. She needs to listen to what the big guy is saying, and then she agrees. Su's mother, who was in pain and had nothing to react to, was still wiping away tears, secretly hating and cursing the old woman to death. Why doesn't the little slut even fall down after taking so much medicine when he can't even buy it well? It seems that now we can only rely on her. Chapter 9, Chapter 11, Is This Still a Human Life? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 11. Is this still a human life? How can we take the harmful measures prepared by Su's mother from their bedroom? Su's mother, whose mind was gradually returning, quietly moved her obese body. Su's father was thinking of words and his eyes lit up when he saw her movements. Thinking of the strategy discussed by the two in the morning, I felt relieved. So he took the initiative to cover up for Su's mother's behavior and was full of nonsense. The child your mother gave birth to back then was very weak, and our conditions at that time were simply unable to support that child, there's nothing we can do. In order to support our children, we can only. Su's father slapped himself hard on the cheek, with a regretful expression on his face. He could only say nothing and let Su Lin think for herself. He should admit his mistake first and fool this little slut. Every mistake is our fault, not related to that child. If you want to scold or fight, come straight at us. Back then, she was just a child and knew nothing, so she was very innocent. As he spoke, Su's father moved him to tears. Su Lin looked at him with sharp eyes. I didn't expect this spy to be quite skilled in acting. Since he said he was going for him, let's go. So Su Lin jumped up from the chair and took a quick step towards her father. In his frightened eyes, her small fist fell. Since someone is asking for a beating, let's accommodate him and prevent him from constantly gasping in pain. That's all for his small request. Quickly, there was a sound of punches hitting the flesh in the hall. Mrs. Su was so scared that she rolled and shrunk to the corner, while Mrs. Su was so scared that she shrank in the room and didn't dare to raise her head. So why don't we let the little slut vent her anger first, and then she'll go out and die? Oh, no, she's not right. She'll go on stage and clean up the little slut. This time, Su Lin didn't save her hand and kept pounding for half an hour before finally putting away her small fists. So if you want to fight and help him, don't let the little spy sleep soundly in the past half month. That hurts when walking, sitting, lying, and lying down. It hurts to inhale air. Hee, let's see how long the little spy can endure. Standing up and moving her wrist, Su Lin said calmly, since you don't have the truth in your mouth, then I won't ask, I'll just deal with you 3 times a day. When will you die and my anger subside? We have settled the accounts between us. After speaking, Su Lin turned around and left, lying on the ground. Su's father, who had more air intake and less air output, trembled with fear. Mrs. Su was even more grand and dared not leave. With tears streaming down her eyes, she watched Su Lin leave the hall. 3 meals a day, until death, is this still a human life? No, we must get rid of the little bitch. Only when the little bitch dies can they have a good life. If it really can't solve the little slut, then send her away. Anyway, this family can't tolerate her anymore. Having made up her mind, Mrs. Su trembled and threw herself onto her father, sobbing loudly. Their family is really miserable, it's so miserable. What kind of evil god has they provoked? Su's father had a headache from crying, and his whole body was in pain, with no good meat, so he rolled his eyes and fainted. Su's mother, who was hiding in the room and couldn't hear anything, quietly poked her head out to observe. At this sight, the man surprisingly fainted. That night, Su Lin slept soundly, Su Kun and Shuangwen slept soundly, while Su's father and 3 of them didn't sleep. Su's father's eyes were icy cold as he recovered. He knew that Su Lin had no feelings for their family, and her wings were also hard to hold. Now they only have one chance to take action, and if they can't control them, then what greets them is hellish torture. They who don't want to be tortured need to sum up well and come up with a win-win solution. The trick of adding medicine to the meal is definitely not effective. That medicine has no effect on her at all. Now we can only fight it out and directly cover her face with the medicine. We can't be careless about the possibility that he may be possessed by dirty things. My mother has done a good job in this regard. Su's father gave Su Lao Tai an appreciative look, which made Su Lao Tai straighten her chest. The result was that Mrs. Su, who was in pain on her body, quickly tightened her chest and, mother, pulled the wound. Husband, the poison I prepared. A small bottle of spray appeared in Su's mother's hand. I bought this at a high price from a black doctor, and the effect is really good. Just spray it in the face, the other party will be hit, and if they get this medicine, they will become foolish and foolish. This is also a big move that Su's father and mother discussed. They think it's best for fools to handle. They just ignored one thing at the time, and that was, did they have a chance to spray? That's why they didn't use this move immediately. And it was only after Su and his father were beaten that they understood that they didn't have a chance to spray medicine, which was why they changed the drug. Who would have thought that even drugging wouldn't work? Su Lin is just a freak, drinking all the chicken soup that has been drugged, and she's still fine. They had something to do and almost got killed. Mrs. Su's eyes lit up when she heard that it could make people become foolish and foolish. She liked this medicine. If it made the little slut look foolish, Then you spray the medicine, said Mrs. Su, who burst out laughing with her crooked teeth. A sentence of 4 words made Sue's mother's face stiffen with pride, and she sprayed medicine. Sue's mother pointed at her face, showing an incredulous expression. Amidst Sue's heavy nods, Sue's mother petrified. The 3 of them engaged in a 3-hour tear and compromise over who would spray the medicine. Finally, Sue's mother was defeated by the joint attack of the mother and son, and could only reluctantly take on this task. However, Sue's mother did not give it for free. Since she was asked to spray medicine, let the dead old lady sprinkle it. The old lady who died is ruthless. She bought a large portion of the potion, and after taking it 6 times, there is still half left. If the dead old lady could take advantage of the little bitch's lack of attention and sprinkle medicine on her face, Sue's mother thinks this matter is stable. The safety of spraying increases sharply. As for Sue's father, well, Sue's father is the one who wields a stick to protect the law, and he is also their last safety guarantee. If both of them fail, then it's up to Sue's father to turn the tables. The 3 of them discussed a plan, and the sky was already slightly bright. They were afraid that they would fall asleep and miss the opportunity to attack, so they ambushed Su Lin's door directly. Sue's mother held the spray on the left side of the door, old Madame Su held the overpowering drug on the right side of the door, and Sue's father held the stick behind her. Sue's mother, who was alone, felt a pang of bitterness in her heart. She was an old woman who couldn't do without men even at an old age. Damn it, it stinks and shameless. When the 3 of them were discussing their positions at the door, Su Lin woke up and almost laughed when she heard that they were ambushing her. Okay, these 3 people really didn't give up. They were ambushed outside the door so early, so let them ambush. So Su Lin's body swayed into the space. Since she was going to have a fight after waking up, she decided to have a full meal first. Entering the space, let's first take a look at the 10 acres of fertile land, which is very good. There are crops such as wheat, rice, and soybeans planted in the fertile land. Chapter 10, Chapter 12. A family lying neatly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Don't be fooled by the fact that it has only been 2 days of planting, the growth is not slow, and it has already started heading. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be harvested tomorrow. This growth rate is simply unbeatable. Looking at the medicinal field again, the fields are divided into pieces and planted with medicinal materials such as ginseng, hersho, and huangqi. Not to mention anything else, ginseng and lingzhi can be cultivated and sold for a good price. In addition, Tian has also opened up a small vegetable field, growing vegetables such as chili peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes, etc. TSK, even with space, she won't have to worry about food, drink, and flowers in her lifetime. Su Lin, who was in a great mood, entered the kitchen of the courtyard and started making breakfast. First boil a large pot of congee. If you can't finish eating it, you can put it into the small warehouse in the kitchen. The small warehouse has time for the static array, which can keep fresh. When you want to eat, you can take it out and eat it. It can also keep warm, fry more than 10 pancakes, and boil a few eggs. Breakfast was quickly prepared, and Su Lin, who was full and well fed, tidied up the kitchen and took another shower before finally leaving the space. She is still wearing old clothes from the past. It's not that Su Lin doesn't want to change into new clothes either. Secondly, I want the Qin family to see her life at the Su family. In short, Su Lin has no intention of changing her image at the moment. She continues to protect her image, which is yellow and thin, with dry grass and patches all over her body, and lacks any temperament. Upon hearing the commotion in the room, Su's father and the 3 of them became excited and their hearts lifted, but they had not yet waited for Su Lin. I almost scared myself to death first. Dad, Mom, why are you standing there? Su Kun rubbed his eyes and asked, feeling drowsy in his head in a mess. Su Kun felt even more tired after sleeping. Not only was he tired, but he was also hungry, and his stomach was throbbing with pain. Because I didn't sleep well and my mind wasn't clear, I naturally didn't see Su and his father being scared and almost screaming. I didn't see the expression of the three of them covering their chests together, with pale faces and sweaty foreheads. Su Kun closed his eyes and asked, "Mom, I'm hungry. What do I have for breakfast?" At this moment, Su's mother realized and didn't say anything. She quickly stepped forward to cover her son's mouth and pushed him towards the hall. This dead child has no eyes at all, and if they continue to ask, they will be exposed. As for what to eat, Su's mother said I don't know either, she didn't make breakfast. Forget it, let's call Shuangwen out and have breakfast. It's perfect to finish and go to school. Upon hearing the footsteps of Su's mother and Su Kun leaving, Su Lin walked towards the door with a wicked heart, and was immediately shocked. Su's mother and son widened their eyes. Mrs. Su raised her paws and was ready to sprinkle the overpowering medicine, but before the medicine could be dispensed, Su Lin's murmur could be heard in her ear. "Oh, I forgot to take the money." The sound fell, and footsteps rang out in the room. Mrs. Su listened to the movements inside and gestured for her father to call someone. The little slut will soon come out, and relying solely on their mother and son is not safe. Hurry up and call your daughter. Law over. Su's father was also in a hurry, so he rushed towards Su Lin's combat prowess. If he didn't do well, he would miss out, so he quickly tiptoed and called out. Quickly, 2 footsteps stopped at the door of the room, and Su Lin curled her lips and smiled maliciously. She quickly walked towards the door and without saying a word, immediately opened it. As the door opened, a ball of overpowering drug was sprayed from the door. Su Lin pouted, "Is that all you have to do? If there were only such means, they would be miserable. They would have been beaten up early in the morning, which is quite pitiful." Mrs. Su extended her head to look inside the room and met Su Lin's narrowed peach blossom eyes. Mrs. Su's heart pounded and she cursed inwardly. "Spray." Old Mrs. Su immediately turned back and shouted at her mother, who immediately held up the spray and sprayed it into the house. Because I was too afraid, I didn't dare to show my head. I stretched out my arms and held spray for a while. Although she didn't know what the other party was spraying, Su Lin stepped back and reached for a little spray to the tip of her nose. The taste is very pungent, but it doesn't harm the skin, is that? Su Lin twisted her fingers and smelled it again, and even tasted it with her tongue. Soon, her face changed. This medicine is not harmful to the skin, but it causes significant damage to the nerves. If inhaled in excess, it can be fatal or even harmful. Su Lin quickly took a few sips of Lingquan water to resolve the damage, and when she looked at the door again, her gaze turned cold and eerie. "Did you spray it? Did you spray it?" Su's mother finished spraying the medicine and didn't dare to look. She stared at Su and gestured for her to take another look. Mrs. Su rolled her eyes. "You said that medicine can make people become fools. Do you think I would be so foolish as to approach and check?" Not only did he not go to check himself, but he also pulled his son to prevent him from getting close. So when Su Lin walked out of the room with a dark face, the 3 of them were still frowning and suing. Soon, the sound of punches hitting the flesh echoed in the yard. After beating for a few times and still having the energy to do bad things, it only proves that she started lightly before, so Su Lin started heavier. It's really heavy, so let's focus on their internal organs. Although they haven't broken them, it's enough for them to drink a pot. After beating the 3 of them, Su Lin walked into the hall again and beat up Su Kun and Shuangwen, who were too scared to stand up. It's so nice to have a whole family lying neatly together. Lying in the courtyard, Mrs. Su wept silently as one hand touched the pocket on her chest, which contained several talismans. It was also a secret weapon she prepared for Su Lin, but she had no chance to take it out and almost got killed. Oh, how can this be sorted out? Su Lin, who couldn't bear the old lady's worries, finished fighting and went back to her room feeling refreshed. She continued to sleep, no, she continued to cultivate. The 5 members of the Xu family are holding their heads and crying bitterly, and these days are really unbearable. What should they do if they can't fight and poison without flipping over? When the 5 of them recovered, they immediately packed their things and went out together. They had already been cast with a shadow in their hearts and didn't want to be in the same sky as Su Lin. Even if we need to discuss ways to deal with Su Lin, we dare not discuss at home. It's better to find a safe place to discuss. Su Lin didn't go out this morning and has been practicing special abilities. Her current strength is still good against ordinary people, and it will be very difficult to encounter experts. If encountering bullets, there is still danger, and the top priority is to enhance your abilities and combat effectiveness. She doesn't believe that Su's father will continue to be beaten, and if he can't come up with a better solution, he will definitely take the blame. This matter is not urgent, just wait for them to take action. There is also the spray. I don't know where my family got it. It must not come from the hospital. So the origin of this medicine is definitely not correct. Maybe it was the poison gas left by the little devil. If we could investigate in this direction, Su Lin raised her peach blossom eyes and a smile flashed on her face. If she could catch the source, it would be a great achievement. Since following the system across thousands of planes, Su Lin has understood that it is right for good people to have good karma. However, some good news may only be obtained after your death. So if there is a chance to earn merit, Su Lin will not miss it. This time, she not only needs to report Su's father as a spy, but also needs to catch the person who sells poisonous gas.